Alright, so in this portion of Chapter 10, we're going to be looking at basically like backup and disaster recovery. Okay, so this is definitely an important topic just because it's never hurts to have too many copies of your data. Okay, so backup just in general is another copy or an extra copy of your data or software. Okay, that way if something happens to the original, you have another copy on hand. And this can be anything from, like it mentions here, your computer failure, a virus, file corruption, anything like that. Okay, file corruption is one of those things that can happen at any moment that you never really have any type of indication that it's happening. So it's always a good idea to go ahead and make a backup. Okay, so another good rule of thumb is that you never trust your important data to only one media. Okay, so if you have the opportunity, back it up onto your network, back it up on an external drive, on a thumb drive, on a DVD, whatever the case may be, just so you have few different backups. That way, if something happens and, heaven forbid, a natural disaster or something like that comes through, then if they wipe out your computer and the network drive, then you still have the data on a thumb drive or something like that. So it's generally a pretty good rule of thumb. Okay, so looking at disaster recovery. Okay, and basically this is for IT, this mainly deals with backup, but also getting everything back into place and back functional as fast as possible. Okay, so when you're looking at disaster recovery, backup, and recovery, you need to decide one on a backup destination. So where are you backing up to? Okay, even if you back it up to a server, that server needs to be backed up as well. So with this, you're generally going to use some type of backup software. Okay, now I will say Windows has backup software built into their server, and it's adequate for basic backups. It will not cover backups that will allow you to do client backups, machines, or something like that. Okay, it literally will just back up folders and locations that you lay out for it. Okay, for a more extensive backup, you really need to go third party. Okay, so third party, there's a bunch of different backup softwares that are out there. I mean, there's Norton has their own, or Symantec, and then there's I think some other vendors like FileVault or something like that. But there's a bunch of different versions of third party software, and they can vary in price and everything like that. But they can also vary in functionality. So you need to do your research when you start looking at this type of information. Okay, but even using this, you need to decide, are you going to back up to tape, are you going to back up to external drives, that kind of stuff, so that you know where the data is going to be if you have to take it off site. Okay, decide how simple or complex your backup strategy should be. Okay, so you can kind of lay this out depending on your company. Some companies back up their data daily. Certain companies are so large that they have to break up their backups, meaning that you may back up all users A through L on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday one week, and then M through Z is Tuesdays and Thursdays, and the next week you switch it. Okay, that way that you're guaranteed that everybody's backed up, and at the very most you're only about a day back. So you can do that, or you can back up the entire system daily and then rotate where that backup goes, meaning that you can have one backup that goes to your bank, like a safety deposit box, another one that goes to a third-party company that handles backups, or you could also do it to an employee as well. The main idea here is just to make sure that you have multiple copies of your backup just in case something happens to one or two copies. That way you have something else to draw from, worst case scenario. Okay, so once you get the backup in place, one of the things you definitely want to do is go through and test your recovery process. Trust me, you do not want to be in the place where you have a natural disaster come through and you've never tested your recovery process. You have all these backups, but then when it comes time to put everything back in place, your recovery options fail. Okay, then all the data that you do have is worthless because you can't even recover from it. Okay, so it's always a great idea to kind of go through and test this. This mentions right here going through and maybe erasing some files or something like that, and then use the recovery process to try to restore them. Okay, that's a great way to do that. Okay, but you should always consider keeping your backups in a safe place and test them routinely if you can. Okay, so backups should be under lock and key if possible. In case of fire, you want to keep them at an off-site location. That's why I mentioned maybe like a bank at the safety deposit box, a third-party vendor that handles backups and software and stuff like that. Just a data safe place, and then basically just go through and check them to make sure you can access those backups routinely, so that you don't have to worry about losing some of that data. Okay, so Windows 8 has something called file history that backs up the user data at different locations. Okay, so it backs up your libraries, your user desktop, your Internet Explorer favorites, your contacts, all that kind of stuff. Okay, it's a newer feature that came around with Windows 8 was this file history backup. Okay, this is available in the Windows desktop or the app for Windows 8 interface. So it's, again, a newer feature, but it is very handy. Okay, to use this, you just connect your backup device, and this could be, again, a tape, it could be an external drive, a thumb drive, whatever the case may be. Then go to your control panel, classic view, and then click on file history. Okay, to turn on file history, all you have to do is just click the turn on button. It's that simple. Okay, then you can go in and manage it if you want to under the advanced settings option. Okay, so you can under that advanced settings, you can set up how often you want it to back up, how long you want the backups kept. Okay, let's face it, you may not want, if you back it up every day, you're not going to want to keep a month of backups like that, because you're going to start losing space on your hard drive pretty quick. Okay, those backups do get rather large. Okay, so with this, you can also go through, look at the history of events. You can clean up old backups to free up space, all that kind of stuff, using these advanced settings under the file history backup. So this is what it looks like once you're in there. As you can see, you just click on turn on right here, and then you'll be able to go into the advanced settings right over here to actually change it and everything like that. Okay, so you make sure you have to have enough free space on that drive that you're using as well. That's crucial. Okay, to recover the items using this technology, you just click on Restore Personal Files in the File History window. Use the arrow keys or click around to select the backup that you want, drill down to the file or folder that you need, and then all you have to do is click Restore. Okay, essentially this is going to be the same type of procedure for any type of backup or anything like that. Okay, so if you want to save it into a different location, like to test it out or something like that, then you can right click on the restore button and click restore to, and then you can choose a location as well, which is sometimes a pretty good idea just to see if the data is going to work and work properly and everything like that. Okay, so here's where you can actually drill down to the location and decide what you need to be backed or what you need to restore. Okay, another version or another option for backup is called a system image, and we've kind of talked about an image already, where essentially you're just taking a picture of everything within your computer. Okay, so this is a wonderful way to back up because it captures everything, your Windows settings, your files, everything within Windows. The downside to a system image is that since it captures everything, they are extremely large. So if you have a 1 terabyte drive and you're using up 360 gigs of that drive, your system image is essentially going to be 360 gigs. Okay, so I mean they're going to be rather large, but they have their advantages. They get everything that you possibly need. Okay, so to create one of these, you open up the backup restore window, you select the media to hold the backup, go through next. You actually get to choose what you want to do. Okay, so you could actually, let me see if I can go through this real quick and show you. There's backup and restore. Okay, system image is right here. Okay, I can, yeah, so I'm going to put it, or, it's selecting my external drive here. Oh, it's not formatted in TFS. Of course not. So, let's see. I may not be able to display this after all, but can kind of give you an idea of how to go through it. Well, it's not going to work either. So let's, we'll just skip over this at this point, but essentially if you had a NTFS drive, you could then throw this in there and create an image. Okay, the backup, it's going to be kind of similar to the backup as well, where once you create or share the destination, then it's going to let you choose. So if you want to choose all users, if you want to change the schedule, all that it's going to be very similar with this system image as well. So that's how it's going to be set forward for you.